Welcome to Good Talk English Podcast. We are Omar and Lena, and we are here to help you improve your English through interesting conversations and fascinating topics. In each episode, we talk about culture, science, technology, history, daily life, and much more. So relax, listen, and learn English naturally with us. Let's begin.
I want to start today by talking directly to you, the person listening right now.
Just you.
Exactly. Whether you're commuting, maybe folding laundry, or just sitting at your desk, I want you to picture a very specific, universal, modern scenario.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
You probably do. So you're standing in your kitchen. It's like maybe 7 or 8 p.m. You've got a half-empty mug of something in your hand. The house is mostly quiet. And you're just staring into the open refrigerator.
Right, yeah.
And the thing is, you aren't even hungry. You're just bathing in that cold fluorescent light, staring aimlessly, almost as if the answer to why you feel so deeply, inexplicably exhausted is somehow hiding right behind the yogurt.
It is a remarkably common diagnostic landscape, honestly.
Yeah.
You're describing what's essentially a fridge therapy session.
Fridge therapy, yes.
It's that profound, quiet realization at the end of the day that something's just fundamentally off. Like you feel completely drained, but you can't point to a single reason why.
And that feeling, that exact exhaustion, is our mission for today. I was recently reading through a fascinating transcript from a YouTube channel called Speak English with Class, and it just hit me how perfectly it diagnoses this exact problem.
It's a great source.
It really is. We're going to figure out why life sometimes feels incredibly heavy, even when, and this is the key part for you listening, even when there hasn't been a massive disaster.
Right.
There's no huge crisis, no giant life-altering mistake you need to fix. You're just bone tired. We're going to unpack the hidden psychological power of completely ordinary, unglamorous daily routines and how they actually dictate our entire emotional bandwidth.
Because, culturally, we are deeply conditioned to look for the dramatic explanation, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
When life feels unbearable or heavy, we instantly assume the solution must be equally dramatic. We think we need to quit our jobs or move across the country.
Or completely reinvent our personalities.
Exactly, or go on some 10-day silent retreat in the woods. But the truth of human psychology is so much quieter. We rarely fall apart because of one massive glaring crisis.
Right.
We're usually being slowly, systematically worn down by hundreds of tiny, ignored, low-grade habits that we repeat every single day.
It's that strange, hollow middle ground, like you definitely aren't having a full nervous breakdown, but you're miles away from having a breakthrough. You're just sort of surviving the Tuesday. And there was a phrase in that transcript that I just can't get out of my head. It called it going through the motions.
It's so accurate.
Right. You're answering the emails, you're smiling at the barista, you're attending the meeting, but it genuinely feels like the day is happening to someone else.
Well, it's dissociation on a micro level. It's when your physical body has managed to transport itself to the office chair, but your soul is still buffering.
Buffering. That is exactly like a video on a bad Wi-Fi connection that just won't load the next frame.
Yeah, just that spinning wheel.
Yes. But here's the thing I want to push on. If your soul is buffering at 2 p.m., that feeling didn't just spontaneously generate after lunch. It almost always starts the very second you open your eyes.
Which forces us to look at the morning.
Exactly. And frankly, I want to talk about the immense, absurd pressure of the modern morning routine.
Oh, the modern morning has essentially become an extreme sport, hasn't it? It's a performance.
It really is. We're constantly fed this idea of the influencer routine. To be a successful, functioning adult in today's world, society tells you that you must wake up at 4:30 a.m.
Right, in the pitch black.
Drink a complex green juice made of rare algae, meditate for an hour, do a high-intensity workout, read ancient Stoic philosophy, and basically achieve total spiritual enlightenment before 7:15 a.m.
It's exhausting just hearing it.
It requires the emotional discipline of a mountain monk, 14 expensive skincare products, and realistically, 3 hours of free time.
Which is entirely disconnected from the reality of the average person tuning in right now. The average person is probably just trying to find a matching pair of socks.
Right.
They're trying to remember what day of the week it is and locate their keys.
Okay, but wait. I struggle with this quite a bit, so let's unpack this. I understand that the mountain monk routine is impossible, and it sets us up for failure. But the alternative we usually fall into is grabbing our phone the exact second we wake up. And everyone says that's terrible.
It is.
But if I'm just lying in bed, physically horizontal, scrolling through a few emails or checking the news, my heart rate is low, I am technically resting, why does my brain react to that like I've already lost the day? I mean, it's just looking at a piece of glass, not running from a tiger.
That is a brilliant question because the physical posture is totally deceiving.
How so?
You're horizontal, yes, but you are forcing your brain to run a neurological marathon. You really have to look at the biology of how we wake up. When you're asleep, your nervous system is in a deeply parasympathetic state. That's the rest and digest mode. When you naturally wake up, your body needs a gradual transition to the sympathetic state, which is alertness and action.
Right, like warming up an engine on a cold day.
Exactly. But when you reach for that phone before your eyes are even fully adjusted to the light, you are completely bypassing the warm-up.
Oh, wow.
You're taking your nervous system from deep rest and immediately throwing it into a fire hose of unpredictable input.
That makes a lot of sense.
The transcript we're discussing actually humorously points out that 7:12 a.m. is apparently the perfect time for the internet to try and sell you shoes you never asked for.
Right.
It's funny, but it highlights the sheer chaos of it.
Because it's not just shoes, is it? It's an email from your boss marking something as urgent. It's some global tragedy on the news. It's seeing someone else's highly edited, incredibly successful vacation photos.
Precisely. In the span of 30 seconds, before you've even brushed your teeth or had a glass of water, your brain is forced to process complex commerce, social hierarchy comparisons, and potential professional threats.
That's a lot for 30 seconds.
And the brain doesn't distinguish well between an urgent work email and a physical threat. It just spikes your cortisol. This instantly launches you into a frantic state.
So the frantic energy isn't about physical rushing. Like, I can be frantic while lying completely still.
Absolutely. Frantic is a state of the nervous system. It's panicked, chaotic energy. You're physically walking to the kitchen to make coffee, but mentally, you are already drafting a defensive reply to that email. You're stressing about a deadline. You're worrying about the economy. You're overloading your cognitive bandwidth and forcing yourself to run on empty before you've even put on your shoes. You're basically treating the very start of your day like an emergency response.
And a chaotic start has an incredible half-life. It just lingers. There's a line from the material that essentially says a bad morning has a special talent for ruining hours that did absolutely nothing wrong.
That's beautifully put.
Right. The afternoon might have been perfectly fine, but the morning already declared war.
Well, if you start the day in a neurological deficit, drenched in cortisol from a frantic wake-up, every single task that follows requires exponentially more energy to complete. You've burned your mental fuel before you even got to work.
So if the mountain monk routine is an impossible fantasy and the frantic phone-grabbing reality destroys our nervous system, what is the actual middle ground? Like, what does a realistic restorative morning look like for a normal person? The concept that came up repeatedly in the source was being intentional.
Being intentional simply means doing things consciously rather than automatically. It's shifting from a reactive state to a proactive state.
Okay.
It's not about doing more things in the morning. It's entirely about how you do them.
See, here's where my skepticism kicks in, I gotta say. The material talks about letting yourself arrive and approaching the morning with less aggression at 7 a.m. And the examples are things like drinking a glass of water, stretching your arms, or just opening the curtains and looking outside for 60 seconds before checking your inbox. Honestly, drinking a glass of water seems incredibly flimsy. How does a glass of water actually compete with the sheer volume of stress waiting for me at my job? It feels like bringing a water pistol to a house fire.
It absolutely feels that way if you're looking at the glass of water purely as a physical action, like just hydration.
Right.
But you have to view it through the lens of psychological signaling. The glass of water, the stretching, the minute of looking out the window. These are not magical cures that make your stressful inbox disappear. They are biological communication tools.
Communication with who? My boss.
With your own amygdala, the fear center of your brain. When you take a moment to just exist in physical reality before you consume digital information, you are sending a very clear, authoritative message to your nervous system. That message is, we are safe. We are in control of our environment. We are not panicking. We are simply beginning.
Wow. We are not panicking, we are beginning. That is a massive distinction.
It dictates the entire baseline of your day. Think about the phrase easing into the morning. What's the opposite of easing in?
Jumping in.
The opposite is the sensation of being pushed down a steep hill the moment you open your eyes. You're stumbling, your arms are flailing, you're just reacting to gravity, trying not to faceplant.
That is exactly what a bad Tuesday feels like.
Right. So letting yourself arrive means you stand at the top of the hill, you firmly plant your feet, you take a breath, and you decide to walk down.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself a few minutes of normal, unbothered human existence before you allow the world to turn you into an employee or a parent or a problem solver.
It is shockingly revolutionary to just give yourself permission to be biological human for 10 minutes. But let's be real.
Okay.
A calm morning alone cannot save a schedule that treats you like a machine for the next 10 hours. That biological piece is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
The minute you sit down at your desk, the modern work environment demands that you become chaotic. So let's look at the actual workday, because the friction certainly doesn't stop after breakfast.
No, the friction of the workday is designed to accelerate. It actively works against that calm baseline you tried to set.
There's a specific word that captures this daytime feeling perfectly. Frazzled. People always try to explain it using the same old cliche, they say it's like having too many tabs open in your brain, and one of them is playing loud music, but you don't know which one. I feel like we hear that metaphor everywhere.
We do, but I actually think the open browser tabs metaphor is far too clean to describe what's really happening biologically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, computers are great at running background programs without suffering. Human brains are not.
So what's a better way to look at it?
Instead of browser tabs, imagine you're a chef in a massive restaurant.
Okay, I'm a chef.
But instead of one kitchen, you have to cook in 3 different kitchens on 3 different floors. You start chopping onions for risotto on the first floor. Then an alarm goes off, so you sprint up a flight of stairs to the second floor to frost a cake.
Sounds stressful already.
Before you finish the cake, you have to sprint to the basement to check on a roast. The exhaustion you feel isn't just from the cooking, it's the frantic sprinting between the floors. In psychology, this is called attention residue.
Attention residue. So a piece of my brain is still stuck on the previous task.
Exactly. Every time you shift your attention from writing a complex report to pinging a coworker on Slack to glancing at a news headline and then back to the report, your prefrontal cortex has to completely disengage from one set of rules and re-engage with another.
And it leaves a residue.
It leaves a residue of the past task behind. This constant context switching physically burns through the glucose in your brain. That is why you feel frazzled. Your brain is literally depleted of fuel, even if you haven't moved from your ergonomic chair all day.
That makes so much sense. The exhaustion isn't from the effort of the work itself, it's the travel time between the thoughts.
Yeah.
So how does a routine actually fix this?
Well,
Because the transcript suggested that true adulthood is basically just getting excited because you prepped your clothes and your lunch for tomorrow. I read that and thought, how does doing a mundane, boring chore like laying out a shirt equate to emotional stability?
This is where we have to reframe what a routine is. We've been sold this hyper-capitalist idea that routines are purely productivity hacks, like just ways to squeeze 3 more hours of labor out of ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
But what the psychology actually supports is that routines are a profound form of emotional support.
Emotional support from folding a sweater. Walk me through that.
It's about the concept of carving out space to eliminate micro-frictions. Remember, when you're frazzled, your brain is navigating a chaotic, unpredictable environment. Every single decision you make, what to wear, what to eat for lunch, what podcast to listen to on the commute, requires cognitive fuel. It forces the chef to run up another flight of stairs. By automating small, repetitive things, like laying out your clothes the night before, or having the exact same breakfast every Tuesday, or taking a 10-minute walk without your phone at 2 p.m., you are creating pockets of absolute predictability.
And predictability is the opposite of a threat.
Precisely. To a frazzled, overworked nervous system, familiarity equals safety. When you lay out your clothes, you aren't just doing a chore. You are signing a micro-contract of self-care with your future self.
I love that. A micro-contract.
You're telling your brain, I am in control of this small piece of reality. We don't have to make a decision here. We are safe here. It stops you from living entirely in reaction mode, just waiting for the next email to dictate your mood. You're building tiny sanctuaries of control throughout an otherwise chaotic day.
Building a sanctuary of a control. That reframes it completely for me. It's not a chore. It's armor. It's a physical way of saying, my peace of mind matters more than the chaos.
Yes, absolutely.
But even with that armor, the friction of the day inevitably builds up. We burn that glucose, which means by the time 6 or 7 p.m. rolls around, we are right back where we started this conversation, standing in front of the fridge, staring blankly.
Because the continuous loop of our lives dictates that how you close out today is exactly how you will begin tomorrow. And the evening is the part of the loop that people neglect the most violently.
It is a really painful truth to admit, but we treat our evenings and often our families, our partners, and ourselves as the emotional leftovers of the day.
It's sad, but true.
We give our absolute best, sharpest energy to our employers, our commutes, and our endless inboxes. By the time we cross the threshold of our own homes, we are empty. We just throw our bodies toward bedtime with absolutely no sense of closure.
We are physically tired, but we're neurologically overstimulated. And usually highly irritable.
Yes. And this is where our modern definition of relaxing is so completely backwards. We honestly believe that scrolling through internet arguments is resting simply because we are lying horizontally on a couch while we do it.
Right.
The transcript pointed out how absurd it is that we claim we are unwinding, but we are actually getting emotionally invested in 15 strangers arguing in a comment section, or researching completely random stress-inducing topics at midnight. It makes this huge distinction between sleep and rest. I want to dig deep into that because they sound like synonyms.
They're used as synonyms, but separating them is perhaps the most vital takeaway of this entire discussion. Sleep and rest are not the same thing. Sleep is a biological function. It is unconsciousness. Rest, on the other hand, is an active process.
Hold on, an active process? That sounds like an oxymoron. How can resting be an active thing you do?
Think about a high-powered computer. You can't just run heavy software all day, slam the laptop shut, and expect the internal components to instantly be cold to the touch.
Oh, true. The fan keeps running.
Exactly. The machine has to actively work to cool itself down. Your brain operates on the exact same principle. If you spend your entire evening consuming high-stress information, doom scrolling, or answering late emails, your brain is locked in threat detection mode.
Right.
So when you finally hit the pillow and close your eyes, your body might achieve the unconsciousness of sleep. But your brain is, as the source beautifully put it, hosting a conference.
A conference where everyone is yelling and you don't know the agenda?
Exactly. You wake up exhausted because your brain was working the entire night trying to process the frantic inputs you fed it right before bed. Rest is the active conscious process of calming the mind so it feels safe enough to actually let go.
That's profound.
It's knowing how to stop. It's a learned skill. A restorative evening routine isn't about productivity. It's about manually lowering the temperature of your nervous system.
Restorative meaning it actually deposits energy back into your account, rather than just pausing the withdrawals.
Yes. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't need to be complex or expensive. It's simply about softening the edges of the day.
What does that look like practically?
It's physically dimming the lights in your house to signal to your brain that the sun has set. It's reading a few pages of a physical book instead of a backlit screen. Taking a warm shower to change your body temperature.
I can see that.
Or, and this is the hardest one for modern adults, literally just sitting in a chair for 10 minutes with zero input.
Just sitting.
No screens, no podcasts playing in the background, no music. Just staring at the wall and letting the mental dust settle. If you don't actively close out the day, you end up dragging today's stress straight into tomorrow's morning.
And if you drag it into tomorrow morning, you wake up already in a deficit, which puts us right back at the frantic 7 a.m. phone grab, running on empty, burning cortisol.
The cycle feeds itself indefinitely, unless you intentionally break it with a restorative evening protocol.
It's amazing how tightly wound this all is. Every action is connected to the next. So as we wrap up this deep dive for our listener, let's pull all these threads together. What we're really talking about today is a fundamental paradigm shift.
Yeah, really is.
A better life, a life where you don't feel constantly drained and hollowed out, isn't built through a massive dramatic Tuesday makeover. You don't need to quit your job, move to a cabin in the mountains, or adopt an impossible monastic lifestyle.
No. We have to let go of the myth of the grand transformation. The grand transformation is exhausting in itself.
Right. A sustainable life is built quietly. It's built through ordinary, almost unimpressive micro-actions. A single glass of water before you touch your coffee. 60 seconds of looking out a window instead of looking at a glowing screen.
Little things.
A slightly simpler evening where you consciously choose not to engage with strangers arguing on the internet. These things look so small from the outside that we dismiss them, but they are the exact mechanisms that stop you from just surviving the week.
And for you listening right now, whether you are still sitting in traffic or finishing up those dishes or just taking a walk, this is the real tangible takeaway.
That's the takeaway.
The goal of a routine isn't to become some flawless, hyper-productive machine. The goal is incredibly simple. Just be a little kinder to your own nervous system. It's about reducing the friction in your environment so that you can feel like your days actually belong to you again, rather than feeling like you're just a helpless passenger in your own life.
It's how you stop going through the motions, buffering your way through the week, and actually start living in the present moments. It brings us right back full circle to where we started.
It's the kitchen.
Yes. Standing in that quiet kitchen, staring into the bright light of the fridge, waiting for the yogurt to give us the answers. The answer isn't in the fridge. The answer is in the quiet moments you take before you open the fridge. It's in the space you carve out to protect your own peace.
Very well said.
So we want to leave you with a final lingering thought, something to seriously mull over as you transition into whatever part of the day comes next for you. If a routine is simply a continuous conversation that you are having with your own nervous system, what is the very first thing your actions will say to your brain when you open your eyes tomorrow morning?